Hey YouTube, I'm Hupeson and these are the best TFT metacons for patch 14.19. I will try to explain all of them, but we will do a filter here in guiadeparche.com. This is my website. I do it with my brother and pro player Relic. You find the link here, tft.guiadeparche.com. So first we're going to start with fast 8 comps. So comps, you want to simply do good economy and then go to level 8 and roll for your epic units for your forecast. First is Gwen. If you see, firstly, we only have tier S and tier A comps here. There are no bad comps if you go fast 8, at least not in the website. So Gwen improved a lot. Gwen was buff and now she's actually working in all the data I've seen so far. She's doing amazing. So you simply want to play her the normal way with Sugarcraft, and try to do as much of the cake as you can. Try to give Gwen double crit items like Hand of Justice and Jewel Wandlet, and then you can give it a Rabadon, even a blue buff. It could be interesting for her, but normally you want burst damage. And then try to turn Fiora into a Sugarcraft also. Jinx, if you have items for attack speed or AD damage, you can put it to her, but normally Fiora is a better secondary carry. So try to go for this comp. It's actually very good right now. Vertical Faeries took a hit. Now Faeries is not as amazing as before. Rakan can be killed. It was very difficult to kill him before because it was too much healing from the Kalista and too much heal or shielding from his actual from the item he had from Faerie. So now it's a good comp. It's like in the bottom of tier A, but you can use it as the same way as before and try to get the 3 multi-strikers so that Kalista can get the additional procs for the attack speed. Vertical Witchcraft is fine. You always want to play it at least with 1 Witchcraft emblem and ideally with 2. If you only have 1, you give it to Karma. Karma is very good. You can use it with blue buff and Morello. Normally blue buff and red buff are also pretty good on Karma. And then try to go for Fiora secondary carry and then try to go for Nasus as your tank. If you have double Witchcraft emblem, that's the best way of the comp, and then you play the 8 witches. So that's the best way, and then you can play for top 1, top 2 if you can manage to get them. But it's always very difficult to get double emblem, so try to take that into account. Now Kalista and Fiora. Kalista Fiora is a comp that you normally play, you do tempo and you realize that you have good items for Fiora and for Kalista, and then you play simply the level 8 comp. It's like this, it's a little more basic, but you actually want to go for level 9 and you want to play around Morgana, around Camille. Those are the cap of the board, and then in that moment you will see the difference. Obviously, Kalista and Fiora will be your main carries for the comp. Karma Red and Blue, this is one of my favorite comps. It's very difficult because you need a lot of resources. You need items for Karma, ideal items for Karma. You need items for Fiora. Now that Gwen is pretty good, you can give items to Gwen. You can give items to Briar. You can give items to Morgana. Your tank is Nasus. So the more resources the game gives you, the better. So try to go for a portal that gives a lot of items, something that really will ramp up the comp when you actually get it, and then you will see good performance from it. Arcana Ryze is simply the version where you don't get early portals, so you simply play the good portal. You play Taric, you play Ryze, and you play Galio, and then you simply play mages according to Nami. You can play Vex if you want, and you can play Ryze also as a possibility. So this is great. This is a great comp, and normally you want to go for burst damage in this comp. So the Rabadon is very important. You can also go for red buff in the Ryze, and then you will see an additional impact in the comp. So it's pretty good. And normally, if you like to play Ryze and you didn't get the early for the comp, you can play it in the late game. Vertica Frost is now amazing. They nerf the Winter Frost augment, but the comp is pretty good. You only need 1 emblem from Frost. You give it to Varus and you give him crit damage. Remember, Varus already have a lot of AD base because of his synergy and his utility, the way the ability of Varus works. So you simply want to give him AIE and then try to give him Last Whisper, and then he will be a total beast. Then Olaf, go with melee items, melee physical items for him, and then Nasus as a tank. If you get 2 Frost emblem, is amazing because you can go for the 9 Frost and you will win almost for sure. Now the ice soldiers are a little nerfed, but the comp itself is pretty good. You still have a lot of AP and AD, so you give a lot of damage. So now the Varus and the Olaf, they punch better, but the ice soldiers will be a little worse. But actually the comp is pretty good. It's S tier comp. Then you have the vertical portal is pretty good because it was already good in the last patch, but now they buff Norra. So now Norra will be a great secondary carry for the late game. Simply try to play all the portals you can, then try to go for Arcana, and if you get an additional emblem, try to go for the 8 portal and give the items of portal. You can give it either to Briar or to Diana. Briar is a great unit, it will give you additional damage, and Diana is great because she will give you Bastion, and then all your team will have more resistances. So if you already have items for Ryze and items for Norra, you might want to go for Diana because you only need defense. If you don't have items for Norra, you only have items for Ryze, and you have good tanks, maybe you want to go for Briar so you get additional damage that you need. And finally, Arcana Varus. We will now see the reroll and the specific augment comps. Arcana Varus is amazing because the problem with Varus is that he wasn't able in the last patch to win against Rakan. So Rakan was almost impossible to kill. He healed a lot. He was a lot of shielding. So now because Rakan is nerfed and Faerie is nerfed, Varus is amazing. So go for double crit, double IE on Varus. Try to go for red buff also. And Tamkench normally here is your carry. Give him defensive items that have a tier so that he can get the first cast as soon as possible. So give him Protector Swell, giving adapting help. And obviously Warmox is good because he scales with HP. And then if you can give items to Seraph in the late game so you can get additional damage. So this comp is amazing, a lot of burst damage, and you win a lot of time with the Tamkench. That will be your main tank. Now let's start with reroll comps that are not a specific augment. So here are only reroll comps that doesn't need a hero augment, okay? So let's start in the bottom. Super Seraphine, this is a meme comp, a meme comp, because they buff Seraphine, they buff Soraka, but probably it won't be amazing. I saw it in the data. I wanted to put it in the web because, I don't know, I found it funny, but it's not amazing in the data. But if you want to play it, you can play Seraphine 3, Soraka 3, go for Rumble 3 and Galio 3 so that it makes sense. It's a pretty good comp, and try to go for Shojin as your main item in the early game so that you can give the ramp up to Seraphine. Seraphine is really good in the early game. Then tier C, you have the Ashe comp, the multi-striker Ashe plus Jax comp. Jax was nerfed 2 patches ago, so it's not in the best spot, but it's tier C. If you get like 5 Ashes and 5 Jax in the early game, maybe you can play this comp. Go for double Ginsus and go for Last Whisper so you can really get that shred of armor in the enemy. Then you can go for Jax 3, and you can consider also to go for Kassadin 3. You will need it so you can get the additional damage. And Veigar, once again, tier B, is decent. The data is not amazing, but I think he will ramp up a little better. They buffed Veigar 3-star, so he's actually in a good spot. Try to go for, obviously, Vex 3 and Veigar 3. You have to go fast 7 in this comp. Try to stabilize with Veigar 2 and Vex 2, and then get your economy up to pace again, and then go for 3-star. So it's a great comp. Obviously, the dream will be to try to find 10 mages in this comp, but it's actually so difficult because they buff 10 mages and you can get a lot of damage. So it's a possibility. Try to go for it. Then you have Super Warwick. Normally you play with Vampiric Cester, but you don't need Vampiric Cester to play. You can go double Ginso plus El Titans, and then you can go for Blitzcrank. You can go for 3, and that's enough to give you additional damage. This comp is very bad in the late game, but it's amazing in the early and mid game. So you have to really get the Warwick 3 as soon as possible, and then penalize, like try to punish a lot the rest of the lobby, and then you get like a top 3, free top 3, because you're very strong when they are not. Ezreal Kamizase, this is the blaster comp. Not good. They only nerfed Ezreal a little, but they nerfed the base AD. So now the crit damage is not amazing on Ezreal, and the data was very low. Before, for me, Ezreal was tier S, and now it's only tier B. Try to go for Ezreal 3, go for Wei 3, go for Shen 3, and then try to ramp up the comp with additional units that give you Blaster, that give you Arcana, and that give you Bastion, obviously, to get additional resistances for the rest of the comp. It's good, but it's already tier B. Hecarim was tier S, now it's tier B also. Not in the best spots, Hecarim, but it's still okay if you want to go for maybe a top 4, or if the game gives you free Hecarim in the early game and you have good units. Obviously, you want to go with this Unleash the Beast. If you don't have Unleash the Beast, it's very difficult to play Hecarim. If you have Unleash the Beast, try to go for double Sterax. That's the comp that you want to play. And try to go for, obviously, Heating and the Ginsos that will be pretty good for Kalista in the late game. You don't need the specific action for Hecarim. If you have someone like an Ashe in the early game, you can go for the ideally for the Ginsus first. the Ashe will be your carry until you get to the Hecarim. So you have actually some possibilities and some path to play this comp. Super Kog'Maw is always in the meta. Kog'Maw is amazing. Most important, go for the Shojin and put Kog'Maw in the middle from Jinx and Tristana. This will enable both of them to get additional attack speed, and you will get additional damage. Obviously, Tristana is very good. She's your main carry, and also Nunu 3 will be your main tank. Level 9, you want to go for Arcana. So you already have the comp on level 7. Try to punish them on level 7. And then if you can, go to level 9 and get Arcana so you can fight for the first place. If not, it's a free top 4. When you see this item, this icon here, you will have the comp if you want to see how it's played. This is in Spanish, but you can enjoy it a lot if you can. I will try to give also some gameplay in English if I can for the future. Katarina Nilah, I still don't know. I think it's okay because they buff 4 warriors and the data is okay. The thing is, Katarina is a little nerf and Akali is buff. So probably I will make a change in the web and I will put Akali as secondary carry when I want to see a little more data. Before I do that, the comp is good so far. And finally, Super 6. They nerf 6, but he's still great because he access to the backline with the bombs, so it's very difficult to position against him, and maybe you go against 2 other people and you don't want to miss position against someone else, so the comp is amazing. You can play it vertical Honeymancer, you can play it with Arcana. It's actually a great comp, only need Blitzcrank 3 at 6-3, and you're already very strong in the early game, so it's still tier S, and you can still keep playing 6 even though he's nerfed. Now for specific augments. Hero augments, build different, things like that. Let's start with the bottle, Super Chen. I still put him in meme, but I think he's better now. The data is pretty good now for Chen, for the Pillar of Flame Chen. But obviously, there's not enough data to be sure. So try to go for either for 5 or 6 Bastion, or try to go for this comp that is a little more mixed, more balanced, much tempo, and try to go for Shen with a Bloodthirsted and a lot of damage, and then try to go for Hecarim 3. Obviously, it's very difficult, but down the Hecarim is not that strong. Maybe it's easier to get him 3-star and accompany the Shen to give a lot of damage. So this is the best way I found so far of how to play the Shen hero augment. Super Lilia, very bad. These 3, they buff it a little, but it's still very bad. So Super Lilia, Super Poppy, and Super Elise, I don't like to play them. So try to avoid them. They're not in a great spot. Maybe they will buff a little for the next pass, but they're still tier D for me. Draconic Master is pretty good. Remember, if you get this item, this augment, you get a free smolder once you get some takedowns. So try to give Nomsi the items that Smolder will have, and then try to play again with Shapeshifter, so you get a good frontline, and you get the dragons for free with Shyvana. Remember, dragons get additional stats. They also get a burn, so you don't need like Morello, you don't need red buff. You're already good with the comp because the dragon will give you the healing reduction. Build different, I don't like it. I think it's tier C. It's very difficult to play sometimes if you don't have good tempo. Kalista is not in the best spot right now. I don't know. I don't like it, so I put it in tier C for now. Super Nunu is pretty good. You can play Super Nunu with Honeymancer. You can play with Bastion. You can play with Veigar. You can play with 6-3. You have a lot of possibilities. Remember, try to go for Bloodthirsted and Archangels for the Nunu, and you get a good example here. And he will give you a lot of defense, a lot of offense, so it's actually pretty good still in the meta. Super Galio is amazing, double Ginsu plus healing in Hextech Gunblade, and the idea is Galio and Rumble you put in the same spot, like in the left, and also the Mordekaiser. So try to bait on from the right, and then Rumble, Mordekaiser, and Galio will give so much damage that they will not die because of the healing also, and you will get the ramp up, you will get the additional speed, and once you get to 5 speed, it's almost impossible for them to kill the Galio. So great comp. Try to go obviously for Deja Vu, and try to go for Shields Up. That is the best augment for this comp because you get the additional defense for the Vanguards. Hero Rumble is pretty good. You play it with Blaster. You don't play it with like the regular way. Before you would play Rumble with maybe the Kog'Maw comp. Now you play like this. You play with 4 Vanguard, 4 Blaster, and try to go for Rumble and Tristana as main carry. So both of them 3-star, and you get also a good early game, and this comp is amazing. It's not many people play this comp, it's very good, so try to play if you find the hero augment of Rumble. And finally, the best hero augment is Spin to Win El Mono. I call her El Mono! So this is a Wukong carry when you get the augment, when you get Spin to Win. So try to go for first the Gargoyle, Stone Plate, then go for healing. You want to have the directly the blockers, and then try to go for blue buff for Karma because you will need her as your carry, and then go for a Sterax. If you have, for example, Unleash the Beast, you can go for double Sterax plus healing. You don't need the Stone Plate. And go for Karma with blue buff, red buff, and then the third item can be anything. Can be Guard Breaker is very good because she hits a lot of people, so you will get the additional damage if she hits anyone that has a shield. So that's pretty good. And she doesn't have a good AP scaling, so you actually prefer to amplify the base damage that she already have. So these are the best comp. Remember here, tft.guiadeparche.com. If you have any comments of the way I explain, I will take it, even if it's good comment. If it's any bad comments, also harsh comment, I take it good. Don't worry, because I still want to learn and be better at my English. So this is a best way for me to try to practice more. So link in the description and link in the pinned comment for the comps, and this will be updated every day with Relic, that is a pro player also, and he's a good friend of mine. So remember, surpass your limits in life and in TFT. See you in the convergence. Wow.